There's an element of recovery from narcissistic abuse that doesn't seem to be being talked about very much, but it's actually an essential key component. I'll tell you why it's an essential key component, and then I'll tell you what the element is. Narcissistic abuse very often can play out as being something where you're trapped inside of an emotionally abusive relationship and you're being bullied, you're being threatened, you're being given some sort of, there's an asymmetric power dynamic and somebody is warding it over you. And that can be seen and that can be recorded, and sometimes that can be screenshotted or recorded on a phone and actually shown to people and be used as evidence. There is another more pernicious type of emotional abuse that can play out though. That is harder to see and harder to report, and it does more damage. And it's why we need to talk about this key element of healing. That type of abuse is typically what we would refer to as covert or fragile narcissistic abuse. So in more grandiose and overt styles of emotional abuse, I am in a position as the narcissistically abusive person to lord it over you, to dominate you, to threaten you, to use my real world power against you. In the other scenario, maybe I don't actually really have that much power. Maybe I'm not in a position where I can threaten you and bully you directly. So I have to use a different strategy. And it's really nasty. It's a strategy of disempowerment. So I have to come after your confidence. In any power dynamic, I can either raise my ability and raise my power in order to beat you, or I can lower your power. Most emotionally abusive relationships have elements of both. But the element that does the most damage, the strategy that does the most damage, is when you are being actively disempowered. That means I'm going to use strategies and tactics to weaken your resolve, to weaken your grasp of reality, to weaken your sense of self, so that with the limited actual power I have, it's easy to beat you because you've been placed into a weakened position. Hi, I'm Samir, a narcissistic abuse recovery professional. There are insects out there that will, in order to consume their prey, bathe them in a sort of corrosive fluid to make them mushier and easier to consume. This is like that, but the corrosive fluid on your ego boundaries works slowly. And so you're never really sure that it's happening. You know, you're never really aware that it's happening. You're like the famous slow-boiled frog. So what do we need to be talking about in terms of healing and moving on from narcissistically abusive relationships that we are not so far? Safety. Safety. If you're a coach, if you're a therapist, if you're a counselor, it is very, very important that at the beginning of each session of working through somebody who's been in an emotionally abusive relationship, you anchor them inside their own body into an emotional and physiological state of safety first. If you're the target and you're looking to recover, and you're looking to do a therapy session with a clinician, you're looking to do course that I've offered you, you're looking to do some journaling around the issue, you have most likely been made to feel a baseline level of uncertainty, lack of safety, and threat for so long that if you try to do this kind of emotionally sensitive work, especially if you've been emotionally dysregulated, which of course, if you've been in a narcissistically abusive relationship, of course you will be emotionally dysregulated. We know that it affects parts of the brain. It affects the hippocampus, it affects the HPA axis, and that means that you can become hyperactivated and emotionally dysregulated by quite small triggers because of the emotional abuse. So We must focus on safety first before any work can be done. If you're not in a physiological and emotional state of some degree of safety, and then we just go into an exercise or therapeutic intervention, let's go back to the time when this bad thing happened, it can put you into a bad emotional state. It can effectively trigger an emotional flashback. How do we get to feelings of safety? I think one of the simplest, easiest, low-cost, and convenient ways of doing it is with simple breath work. That's one of the easiest and most primary ways of doing it. This is backed by research that's been replicated numerous times. There are different styles of breath work you can do that basically bring you back into your body. But the rule seems to be that if you focus more on the out-breath than the in-breath, it is as though you're preparing your body for relaxation. So, between the parasympathetic and sympathetic nervous systems, you want to activate, or rather deactivate, your nervous system in preparation for relaxation rather than for activity. If we're breathing in, as you would be if you were jogging or doing your kettlebell routines or whatever it is that you do for activity, that's your body waking up. If you're breathing out slow and long, and there's more of a focus on a slow, long out breath, that's taking your body down into a state of relaxation that you will associate with safety. There is a breathing technique, it's not his, but I learned it from watching Andrew Huberman. It's called the physiological sigh. And it's the type of thing you will see a child do naturally after they've had an emotional episode. As they're coming down, say a 4-year-old has a tantrum or gets very upset about something. As they're coming down from that emotional episode, they breathe. And we can emulate that and get the same physiological feedback as that. The way that they teach the physiological breath is 2 sharp inhales through the nose and then a sigh out. And if you do that for 10 cycles now, as I continue talking, you'll feel your body start naturally and spontaneously to relax down. As you're doing that, as an extra element that I would offer you, there's a technique. When I was a kid growing up, I used to do a lot of Aikido in Birkenhead with a chap called Ezra Sensei at the Hari Road Dojo, the Kyoan Dojo. And he would teach us Zen meditation. Part of getting into the Zen state would be to return to the body. So you'd focus on what you can feel, what you can hear, and what you can see. And because the body only exists in the here and now, we return back to this moment. Everything that is emotionally triggering or emotionally dysregulating, if you're in a state of post-traumatic stress response, is not here now. It's your body firing off memories to say, warning, warning, there's danger. You need to run. You need to freeze. You need to do something about this danger that is there. And it's not in the here and now. So if you can bring your body slowly and gently back to here, and you bring your consciousness to your body, that means your consciousness and your body are here and now, where things are safe. The third thing I would offer you, very, very simple, is to say inside of your mind, I am safe here now. I am safe here now. So if you're a therapist or a coach, you could make that a part of the ritual of every session that you begin with the client. Just 2 or 3 minutes bringing the client down into a calm, relaxed, physiological state. If you are the target and you're looking to recover, this would be time well invested and time well spent just to bring yourself down into a calm, relaxed, physiological state where you can begin to feel safe. If we're pinning off into the past, pinging off into the future in our consciousness, it makes it very, very difficult to process what it is that we need to process now. Bad things have happened. That is true. But in this moment, they are not happening. And in order to digest them, in order for the brain and the body to go through its natural healing process of metabolizing painful experiences, We must be here and now and feeling relatively safe first. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope that was useful. Thank you for your time and for your attention. I look forward to speaking to you again very soon.